This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me tonight are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everybody.
Stephen Lockridge.
Hello, everyone.
And Will Bentley.
Hello, everyone.
And welcome to a special episode in which we will be taking a look back at the year 2021 in DTV form and short film. The format for this episode will be as follows. Each round, we will take it in turns to state our nominated film. If someone has the same film in a higher position, they will say punt and we'll move on to the next person. If not, then the original person can give a short summary of why they chose that particular film. So we're going to kick off with our top 10 shorts. Now, Rich, how many shorts have we covered on this show in this year?
Oh my God, it's like I think almost 100, like 96. I think 44 on the main show, this show, the DTV Digest, but 52 on our Short Shots spin-off show as well.
Yep, so we cover a lot. And if you're a subscriber to the Short Shots Twitter page, then you will know that we pop along a link to a new short every day. So if that sounds interesting to you, give us a follow. So we're going to kick off with our shorts. I'm going to go first. So my number 10 short film this year is Action C's Special Force. Does anyone else have that one?
I don't, but it's an excellent choice.
Yeah. So this is from, I believe it's Thailand. So the Thailand or Vietnam?
Vietnam, I think.
Vietnam. It's a brilliant little short about 3 special forces guys sent in to take out this gang. It has got a wicked sense of humor. If you're a fan of Stephen Chow's sort of comedy, this is definitely up your street. I absolutely love the comedy in this. Just works gangbusters. Okay, so Steve, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is Forsaken Mandalorian and the Drunken Jedi Master.
Nice.
Yeah, I just thought it was nice and fun, really well shot, and kind of like, the opening to a wider adventure, which hopefully they might elaborate on. Yeah, thought it was real good.
Yeah, you can't really fault the design of it. That's for sure. That they really matched the aesthetic of the show and did a really good job. Rich, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is The Time Traveling Sheriff.
Punt.
Oh, okay. Moving on then to our number 9. My number 9 is Burnt.
Punt.
Oh, awesome. Okay, Steve, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Sarah, which was the Jason Isaacs, slight sci-fi one. Which, I thought it was really well done. Again, obviously it's great to see Jason Isaacs popping up with something like this, but it was just intriguing. Really was intriguing that that housekeeper robot was trying to take over, basically. And
it's like a domestic kind of situation against sort of a robot uprising, isn't it? It's like the rise of the machines, but instead of being focused on what the Terminator's up to and everything, we're just in a house with with just a regular family.
But with just enough to sort of to do a bit of world building and show the sort of the wider scope of what's going on. Very good choice. Rich, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is an action film called Payload. Which I enjoyed for the exotic location, which I think was made in Portugal, I believe. It was made several years ago, but it took a long time to actually get finished off and released. So it came out at the very start of January this year. Lots of different locations, about 13 minutes long. It starts out as kind of a transporter kind of thing with a guy in a suit trying to deliver a suitcase. But then what I liked is it's got multiple sort of sections to it. So he has that sort of chase scene. Then he ends up in a sort of a downtime bit where he's catching up with his mate, and then a whole bunch of
Goons.
Goons come after him basically. So then there's another big fight scene. And he gets a one-to-one scene. There's a bit of a twist at the end. Really good. I mean, it packs so much into about 13 minutes. Got a really good look to it. Yeah, I think it basically covers a lot of the bases, and it's really stood out to me. Cool. We covered that a full review in the 3rd episode of our Short Shots show.
Okay, so moving on to our number 8. My choice is Meet Jimmy. Oh, I'm hearing crickets. Okay, so Meet Jimmy. This is a really cool horror short about a girl doing her laundry in the laundromat, listening to a true crime podcast. Except the the audio sort of takes on a life of its own. The serial killer story that she's listening to starts to personify, and it's the audio design for this episode that really makes it, because you are that girl listening to the the story develop in your ears, and it works really well. Really enjoyed it.
I wonder what it would be like to just listen to it. I wonder what that experience would be like. Just turn off the screen, just pop it in your pocket or something, and just just let the podcast thing do its work, and it
probably would work. Yeah, probably would work. Okay, Steve, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is Black Market Brawl.
Punt.
Okay, and Rich, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is Burnt.
Okay, off you go.
Yeah, so more so even than the previous one I was saying, I think this one perfectly shows how you can tell a fully formed story in less than 15 minutes. It's entirely complete. It's not like a section. It's got a beginning, middle, and an end. It's does the setup, introduces the characters, and it's like a horror comedy, but
actually horrible. Yeah,
the horror and the comedy works. I mean, I've watched it 3 times, and it's really clever the way they use this toaster. Basically, it's a killer toaster movie, and the way they fit in so many different scenes, and it's there's kind of the obvious stuff like standing on a plug, which just gets me every time, and then there's the bit at the end where the guy ends up with his hand in the toaster and stuff. It's just it's fantastic. You're a big fan of this one too, Mike? Yeah.
Yes, I am. It was my number 9. So yeah, I totally love this. It's one of those clever ideas of taking an inanimate object and making it scary. We've seen other variants of this, things like the drone. That did a really good job of taking something as stupid as a drone and actually making it menacing, quite like that. But you can't get more innocuous than a toaster, really. And yet they managed to sort of, the bit when he stands on the plug.
Yeah, exactly.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And the other things like when they put something in the toast, the toast comes out and it's burnt a face on it.
It's got a burnt face on it.
Yeah. But they put the toast in the bin, and then because the bin lid is one of those bins that closes really slowly, the camera just lingers on it, and it's really suspenseful. It's like you're looking at this sort of demon thing.
I know, it's a piece of toast.
So clever. Yeah, it's a piece of toast. It's so clever. Made by Danny Morgan. And I'm saying like fully formed story in like less than 15 minutes. I think it's basically just over 10. I mean, it's no time at all, but it's so good.
Very good indeed. Okay, so what was that? That was our number 8. So moving on to number 7, I'm going for a chapter from The Cure, which is Faster.
Punt.
Okay, awesome. I see, minds for think alike and all that. I won't say great minds, but definitely minds.
Minds of some description.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, what is your number 7?
Yellow Belt Fury.
Nice.
That is a good
one.
Yeah.
Fun, bit silly, but yeah, it was enjoyable. And I really liked the fight scene at the end. I thought it was just so over the top and funny. And when she loses a partner, and all the training montage and stuff like that. And no, it was just a bit of a goofy, funny film, you know.
Oh yeah, it's very playful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, Rich, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is Welcome to the Sting.
Oh, that just missed my top 10. That did. Yeah, good choice.
So this is a fight-centric short, limited locations, but a lot of clever sort of development of the fighting as the film unveils. So there's basically 2 fight scenes. Starts out with sort of an introductory fight and the setting up of the scenario with the cop trying to get undercover, and then the first one is he's got to get beaten up, and then once he's in the room, he's got to prove he's the best, basically, so that he can get in with the bad guy and become his like number 1 guy. Anyway, so what's clever, I mean, it's all just shot in like big sort of in unassuming location, which is quite common for these kind of things, but the camera work and everything's quite good, and the choreographies are excellent, but they, like I say, it's the upping of the stakes. So that they start fighting, then they break, then they throw, then there's like another element is thrown in, like a gun. So like the guy breaks a gun into like 2 parts, you know, the clip and the gun, and then they've got to fight each other to try who's going to get the clip or who's going to get the gun to then kill the other guy. And then at the end, and the last part of it, then another guy enters the fray, and he's got a great finishing move and stuff. It's just, it's got all these moments in it, and we saw it at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival. Played really well on the big screen. But you know, you like pretty much all of these films, you know, you can just find it on YouTube. It's really worth your time. It's about 12 minutes. We covered it. I mean, it came out in March. I've seen it like 3 times now. It's really good. And we did a full review on the 8th episode, I think, of our spin-off show, The Short Shots.
Yep. Cool. Moving on to number 6, and I'm going for Eye Exam.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so like Steve with his Yellow Belt Fury, this is a nice short. This reminded me of things like The Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. It is literally just a woman going, you know, having her eyes tested. But while her eyes are sort of blurry with the lenses and stuff, she seems to think that her optician is something more sinister than human, and you get these bits as the lenses are changed over. Suddenly she gets a bit of clarity, and we see that actually, yeah, there's sort of, you know, lizard creature kind of thing in an optician's outfit. It is, I think it's about 2 minutes long or something ridiculous like that. But you know, they managed to do a lot with the idea and building this sort of, you know, this sort of trepidation and tension. It's one that stuck with me. Really enjoyed it.
Was that one of the Etheria shorts, Mike?
Yes, I think it was either Etheria or the Stylist ones. I think it was Etheria. Yeah. But yeah, no, it worked really well. Okay, so Steve, your number 6.
My number 6 was Batman Other Worlds.
Good
Okay,
one.
yeah, cool.
I really like the fight with, was it Black Mask at the beginning? And I think it was filmed really well, set really well, and you know, the art direction, everything I thought was really, really good. It was a really, really high standard, and you know, it was a decent little film as well. Nice little story. Really enjoyed that one.
Is that the one with the silly ending? Or is that...
That's the thing, is that it was all a prank. It was like an April Fool's Day kind of thing of like, we're doing all this build up to do this big film, and then actually they do this whole pulling the rug out from under you thing. You know, about 5 minutes in. Or something.
Yeah,
but
it was really good. Yeah, it was the different iterations of Batman and things going on. Really cool.
Yeah, because we get a bit of the sort of 60s Batman thrown in and stuff. Really
so Rich, what is your number 6?
Dr. Bees.
Of course
returns.
It is.
Punts.
Oh, bloody hell, there's both of you. Okay. Moving on to number 5. And my choice is Blake Ridder's The Manor.
Nice. That's a good one.
This really impressed me, this one. It was a little bit meta, but it really uses location really well. There's a brilliant setup at the beginning. It's ostensibly about a production crew doing a bit of location scouting at a old manor house. And as they start walking around and exploring, sort of weird stuff starts happening. Very well done. You know, zero special effects or anything, but some really clever editing sort of makes it work. Really enjoyed it. Steve, what was your number 5?
So this is one of the punts from earlier. It's the time traveling sheriff.
Yes,
excellent stuff.
It just did what it said on the tin. I mean, it was, really nice and sweet, and a lot of the stuff we do is normally like, actiony or horror, really, isn't it? But this I just thought was something sweet, something different, nice, family orientated one that you show your kids and stuff. And I thought the effects and the magic effects were really good. It's just wholesome family fun.
And it feels like a Hollywood movie. Is like the quality is
Yeah.
so good on it.
Yeah.
The cast and that and great. I mean, the director or the writer,
Zach King.
Well, Zach King's the
star,
he's the star. He's the YouTuber magician guy. Who does lots of tricks and stuff. But the main filmmaking force is Colin Levy, who did Skywatch.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
This guy, I'm sure it's just a matter of time before he gets a really good, blockbuster Hollywood movie or something. It just seems a matter of time. I mean, he's got all the skills,
the tools and the skills.
Yeah,
just needs the money.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of guy that would be doing a Jurassic Park sort of movie, I think. So, yeah, it's high production values, amusing script, great performances. Completely different to pretty much everything else we've watched this year. It's just so novel and notable, and and was the first thing to introduce me to Zach King, and I'm checking out some of his other
me and Josh like to check out his stuff. It's so clever. There's a lot of sort of forced perspective stuff, and really, really clever. What's the word I'm looking for? Illusions. That's the one. Okay. So Steve. Sorry, no, Rich. No. Your number 5.
So my number 5 is probably a film we've talked about very recently. It's Resignation Day.
Oh yeah.
Which is it's a fun sort of spit. It's kind of a mix of different things, because it's kind of British gangster film, Guy Ritchie kind of stuff to an extent, and then there's another element which is more like a hitman trying to give it up and go his own way, and there's a bit of sort of Jackie Chan style fight action on a boat and that, but there's irreverent humor sort of mixed in, but the film's got a really dark edge to it, especially at the end. It's just it was quite surprising. It was 18 minutes long. It's another film we saw at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival. Really well shot, great location. I mean, they've got some really nice stately home kind of location for it, a bit like the Manor really, but in this case we get like aerial shots of it and everything. And it's made by Adam Brashaw and Adam Basil, and it's not, again, it's kind of a film that is entire, although it kind of got an open ending. It's kind of more, it's not really a cliffhanger as so much of I think just sort of a sting in the tail kind of ending, I think. And it's the most whole. It's another one of those films that's like feels pretty whole and really good, rather than just sort of being like a proof of concept or something. So yeah, really, really good.
Johnny, good. Okay, moving on to our number 4. And my choice is one of the Etheria films, and it's Misfits.
Now, I don't remember this one, Mike, so you'll have to fill me in.
Okay. This one, it starts off in media res.
Oh, we love that.
We do, don't we? you know how much I'm a staunch proponent of in media res.
We should introduce an in media res award.
Yeah, but this is, again, like was talked about the darkness of the road in a previous episode. This is one of those rare occasions where using in media res actually helps the impact of the story, because we're talking about a 10-minute short. This starts in chaos. It's set during the 60s. It's a bunch of black friends, and they've got a cop tied to a chair in the basement.
Yes, I remember this now. Yes.
Okay. And then it cuts back to like 1 hour earlier or something like that. And you're thinking, and 1 hour earlier, everything is idyllic. You know, a girl's coming back from a college course. Her friends are making dinner in the kitchen. Everything's relaxed. Everyone's happy. And for once, you're going, shit, what on earth changed? You know, what has changed to push them from this idyllic situation to having a cop tied up in the basement? And then you find out on the radio Martin Luther King's just been murdered. And it all falls to place. It is just brilliant. It is really emotionally charged, brilliantly acted. Yeah, it's a brilliant watch, I thought. So yeah, Misfits, that one, brilliant. Moving on, Steve, what was your number 4?
My number 4 was Out of Mecca.
Oh yes,
Stephen Reynolds.
Yeah, I love the story. I love the way it played out, and it grabbed me. It was really, really well done as well. I mean, I think it was something like $6,000 it cost, or something ridiculous like that. Because once it had finished, I ended up just letting it run on YouTube, and it came up with like the making of as well,
right.
Which I thought was really interesting as well. You know, shooting the like the mecha game bits.
Yeah, the point of view,
you know,
sort of bits.
How he did that, and you know how they adapted to making it and shooting it on the fly as well. It's just really interesting as well. But I thought the performances were really good as well, and it was just quite an intriguing story. And I think it's one of them that could, if he gets the chance or the opportunity, I think it could make a really good feature as well.
Yeah, it was borderline feature length anyway, was it? I mean, it's long, it's about 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like a TV,
kind of like
an episode Mirror. Kind of. Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
Yeah, really enjoyed that one as well. Yeah. Okay, Rich, what is your number 4?
So my number 4 is one we've mentioned before. It's Faster, a chapter from The Cure.
Yep, that was my number 7.
So you go first, Mike.
Okay, so The Cure itself was a very ambitious short, which it basically threw everything, including the kitchen sink, out the screen. There was car chases, there was parkour, there was gun battles, there was a fight with a Harrier jump jet. You know, it was very, very intense but messy. Whereas this next episode, which has still got the main guy trying to deliver this this cure on a motorbike being chased through this city, lots of carnage still, but it feels more streamlined and not constrained as much, but in control. You know, whereas the other one was sort of a bit too sort of chaotic for its own good. I think this was much more focused on its sort of main agenda, and it is a real showcase for the sort of what action you can do with CGI on a low budget.
Yeah, and it's the kind of action you would see in a Fast and Furious movie, basically.
But Michael Bay
but done
sort of stuff.
But done with like a Gareth. Was it Gareth Edwards who did Monsters? You know, it's kind of
he did Monsters. Yeah,
like it's almost like a made in your bedroom on a computer kind of film, almost. To that is so. The ambition is so. I mean, the opening of Faster is all shots of jump jets and it's on an aircraft carrier, and it looks like they're actually on an aircraft. They were actually filming on an aircraft carrier, it appears. I mean, then you've got all the stuff on the streets with the very careful compositing of all the motorcycles going through traffic and people getting shot and crashing and stuff, and cranes, and there's a whole thing with a shipping container. Genius. Shipping container and stuff.
It's proper big screen carnage.
I'll tell you what's funny though is watching it again. I mean, this was another film that came out right at the start of the year. I mean, January was really good for short films. This came out middle of January, I'm watching it at the end of the year. So the characters at the start, the guys who were saying it's set in a world where there is this deadly virus or disease or something, and
the world.
They keep having to give themselves booster shots, to keep it at bay. I mean, how timely is that? It just feels really weird to sort of to be seeing this again. I mean, I know it's obviously in an exaggerated fashion, but that's kind of where we are right now. So that's really weird. Exactly. So it's a great Ahmet Atli. I think he's a Turkish filmmaker.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's Hollywood blockbuster. In
quality.
In quality. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Moving on to number 3. My number 3 is again from one of the Etheria collections. It is Unsafe Spaces. So this is a black and white short featuring a woman finishing work late at night and having to cross an empty car park to her car, but there is a man standing in the way. That should not be the premise of a horror film, and yet it is. And you go in watching this with that sort of sense of trepidation for this woman, except nothing actually happens. But you're kind of expecting something to happen, partly because it's been dressed up as a horror film, but partly because in the back of your head, that situation feels dangerous. And they capture that perfectly. So there you go. That is my number 3. Steve, what is yours?
My number 3 is one that Rich brought up earlier. It's Dr. B's Returns.
Dr. B's Returns.
Oh God, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's just batshit insane. They're brilliant. I think I ended up watching. Was it 3 of them? I think there was.
Yeah, there's 3.
Yeah. And I think it's just one guy does it all, basically, from what I can recall. But yeah, it's just absolutely batshit insane. Something that reminds me of like some of the Beyond. Do you remember Liquid Television? I think it was called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was like an MTV thing from years ago. There's something like, off that, and it's just off its head, but it's hilarious, and I really did like the animation style of it as well.
Yeah, it's really well animated. Really,
the art. You could definitely see it on Adult Swim or something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's completely up that alley.
What this situation needs is more bees. Crazy thing. Awesome. Okay, and Rich, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Victoria.
That was a good shot. Yes. Was that shot in Brazil? Am I thinking the right one?
Quite possibly. I didn't get a chance to. I rewatched most of these, but I didn't get a chance to rewatch that one. So I'm not 100% up on the details. I just remember it was really impressive. It's more of a proof of concept sort of setup, and it touches on themes that we've seen before, which is like, child gets kidnapped or grown up to be an assassin, all that sort of thing. But it's a directed by one Bofill as a vehicle, I think, for his daughter Shina, who's a stunt woman.
Yeah, this is the one where she ends up at a party. So it's a like pool party and has to kill somebody. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and so there's all the stuff with the dress and the sort of splitting the side of the dress, and
then having her escape and everything. Yeah,
making an escape, and whole motorcycle sequence. Which is really great. I mean, it's another film that's got different. It's similar to Payload. It would go quite well with it. It's a similar kind of, multiple sort of locations, multiple action set pieces within. In this case, it's about 20 minutes long. Really good. Can't recommend it enough, really.
Yeah, totally. Okay, moving on to number 2. And again, I've just realised that a lot of mine are from the Etheria collections that we've covered. This one is called Narrow.
Oh, I love Narrow.
Narrow is awesome.
That's a really, really good choice.
This one, it starts with a woman. She's literally having to walk a straight and narrow path. There's a line of sand that she has to stay on. If she falls off, then she's damned. And we see what happens to other people who have left the straight and narrow path. And there's sort of various people trying to entice her to step off or trying to trick her to step off and things like this. It is just really well done. There's sort of zero exposition as to what's going on. You just have to sort of pick it up and sort of realize what's happening. But it is really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And Steve, you're number 2.
My number 2 is Ghostbusters Southside.
That was good.
Again, I just thought it was nice mix of characters, really well shot, really well done. The effects were great, I thought. What they did. The only slight disappointing thing was kind of the ending. But apart from that, I just thought it captured the essence of like the original film really, really well.
You sort of keep yelling at them, take our money and just keep going.
Yeah.
And I think in certain respects, I think it did some things it did better than Ghostbusters Afterlife. I mean,
I've not seen
like
that
both
yet, so
they do, they touch on similar things. I mean, they're both kind of set a long time after the original events of the first film and stuff. So there's touch point, but this one is doing something on its own rather than relying too much on the original. So I quite like, I kind of admire that more, because it's kind of gone its own way completely. There's a whole new cast, really interesting, diverse.
It's been franchised, isn't it? I love the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so really good. And yeah, it is more. It does play ultimately more like a setup for a TV series or a web series or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that as well, but everything else is really good.
Mm-hmm. So Rich, what is your number 2?
So we mentioned it earlier. It's Black Market Brawl.
Yep, that was pretty damn good.
Steve, was it on your list?
Yes, I think it's like number 8.
You go first. Then. You go first.
I just thought it was one of them action shorts that actually had a bit of a story to it as well. It wasn't just, let's kick off in this room and then we'll do that. I like the fact that they were trying to find it's like an artifact or some, a double crossing, and the brothers start fighting with each other and stuff like that. I just thought it was really well done. Really well done.
Yeah, it's another one that uses its budget really well. I mean, it's entirely shot indoors in one location, but they've made, whether it's done in post or something, I don't know, but the way the film looks is great. It's got this sort of a greeny sort of quality to it, really sort of stylish. The costumes and stuff are excellent, especially the female character who looks like a Gina, she's like a Gina Carano type. She's got like a tattoo on her neck and stuff. She looks really intimidating. And it's made by David Wayne Smith. It's a South African film.
South African, that was it.
And he did Bad Hit last year.
Brilliant film,
which had a very similar look to it.
Yeah.
And very similar sort of mix of the sort of serious theme, serious tone, and sort of adding in some humor really well as well. He also did another film this year called Oasis, which was completely different, which is also interesting. But
is that the sci-fi one?
Yeah, that's the one in the desert.
Yeah.
But and yeah, I just thought this was really fun. Adds in sort of a supernatural element, and that is there was another in a similar vein. I think it was last year. There was an X-Men fan film about the Gambit character. Which it reminded me of. It had a kind of similar kind of vibe to it. You get this sort of introductory conversation sitting around a table kind of thing, and then it all kicks off, and then there's sort of different say some supernatural elements and stuff coming in. So yeah, very, very slick, very cool.
Absolutely. Okay, so here we go, guys. We're on to our number 1s. And my number 1 is Warlike.
Teddy Masson.
Yeah, this has stuck with me, this one. So this has a team of special force operatives about to kick off on a mission, and they discover that the female in their midst is actually a double agent, and she's just suddenly been exposed, and she basically has to get out. It is a very well choreographed and very well shot, very dynamic action scene. not just focused in the room as well, or we find out there's a sniper outside, so we cut to the sniper and things like that. It's just really, really well done. So Steve, Steve, your number one.
My number one was 1986.
The Batman.
Batman versus the
The Batman one. Yeah,
Sure.
I really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. I know you had reservations about the guy playing the Joker. Yeah. But to be honest, everything else I thought was really good. I thought Lawrence Harvey is the Penguin. I thought was
he's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah, he was super.
Yeah. And Mark Griffin as Frank Castle, I thought was great as well. And it was just really well shot, really well produced. Even the costumes were great. And like I said, the one thing that really got me is they even had the white go-go boots on the Punisher as well, which you don't see, apart from in the comics. You've never seen it in like a physical form. But yeah, I just thought it was cracking, really fun, really enjoyable, and quite menacing as well in parts. But yeah, best one I've seen this year.
The fact they had them swearing just added that sort of Cockney gangster kind of element to it. You could almost imagine sort of Craig Fairbrass turning up or something. But
wouldn't that be great?
But the thing, I mean,
Craig Fairbrass. Yeah. Let's imagine Craig Fairbrass as Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne.
That'd be cool. Or the Punisher. I don't mind.
Yeah. Joker, you cunt. But I still maintain they didn't. I mean, at least they tried to do something a bit different with the Joker's appearance. They didn't try to ape what had been done before. It didn't work for me. But the actual guy acting, if you close your eyes and just listen to him, he's almost as good as Mark Hamill. I thought he really nailed the playfulness and the menace at the same time. It really came through. So yeah.
I just want to give an honorary mention at this point to Batman Dying is Easy, which I thought which I also took some issues with the Joker portrayal and part of that, but that's got a really, I mean, the first part of that short with Batman beating down on a guy, I think it's the Mad Hatter. That's a great sequence.
Right. Cool. So, Rich, what is your final film of the shorts?
Now, so what I've done is, you might have noticed my list is very action heavy. What I've also done is I've picked films that were released this year. So I just want to give a note to what would have, if I was including everything we've watched this year, whether it had come out at the tail end last year or whatever, my number one would have been Cyberpunk 2077 Phoenix Program, because I just think that's amazing. So that's my honorary mention. But my number one is, it's funny you mentioned Teddy Masson, because Teddy Masson shot this film as well. He didn't direct it because it was directed by Godfrey Reichwart. It's The Collector.
Yes, this is very good. Yep.
Yes, I mean, it's so vibrant and crazy. It's humor, it's action. It's another film that's basically shot in same as Black Market Brawl, really. So it's shot in sort of like an abandoned warehouse kind of.
But it's set in the nightclub, isn't it? That one.
Yeah, it's done up as a nightclub, and it's all to do with the lighting. It's all like red lights and things, and it all kind of kick. The concept is this sort of cartoonish debt collector comes along, and he's in this nightclub where this guy is playing like a board game thing, and not a board game, but like a plastic toy thing where you have to put swords into a pirate or something. And he starts telling him, you pop up pirates, that's it. So he starts talking about you've never been in a place like this, and whatever, the music's going to start get to you. And so this guy, he starts having these involuntary dance reactions, and his physical performance is so good. And then it just sort of suddenly spins into like he's people are literally being thrown around and dodging chairs and all sorts of stuff, and then guns come out, so there's a lot of he's shooting people all over the place or whatever, and then there's like a twist at the end. it's only about 8 minutes long, but boy, it's amazing.
It packs a lot in. Yeah, we've covered a few films by Godfrey Reichardt this year, and he hardly ever disappoints. Basically, does he? I mean, the one he showed at Fighting Spirit is probably the one we were least impressed with, and it was probably his biggest one.
Well, I think it lacked sort of the flair that we normally see. I mean, he does so many. I mean, they're not all going to be amazing, but for me, this is just is next level. Yeah. And the fact that you when you're watching it, you can see the low budget sort of location and everything, but they just bring so much. It's I don't know, vivacious or whatever. I don't know what the word is, but it's so amazing. It's colourful. And Teddy Masson. I mean, this and Warlike are such different projects. Yeah. Warlike's got a very, muted palette, compared to this. But boy, I mean, this guy is a great cinematographer. Absolutely.
So there you have it, folks. Our top three are Warlike, 1986, and The Collector. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back to look at the worst 5 films of 2021.
Are there any in there that you'd like to see, or whatever? Let Will have a little.
Yeah. Any of those catch your fancy? I mean, I know you've seen a couple of them because you saw the Manor, for example.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the that Batman Punisher one. That I'd really quite like to see that, because big fan of both of those, like the comic books and some of the adaptations I've seen. Although, to be honest, I haven't seen all of the films, but there was a Punisher series on TV that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But what is that? Is that a live action Batman?
Yeah. They do a really good job of it. Yeah. If you think like the Ben Affleck sort of, I mean, a guy as old and bulky as Ben Affleck, basically playing Batman. It does work really well.
Who plays Punisher in that?
Mark. Oh, what's it called? Hang on. The English guy.
Griffin.
Yes, I think. Yeah, Mark Griffin. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna check it out, because that to be honest with you, that was a good section. But it's always really weird. I think there's literally 2 films out of all the ones you mentioned that I'd actually been on the reviews for. Like, I've really not seen quite a lot of the movies. Like, I think because I always end up not having the time and cherry picking, or Michael say, right, we'll focus on this one and we'll do this one.
Yeah.
Or I'll literally, out the list that we get, I'll sort of get to watch 1 or 2. And so I know I've watched more than just sort of 3 films, but I must have watched ones that you guys have universally loathed. So
yeah.
I think it's not that at all. I mean, there've been so many really good films this year. We had to be, it was really hard actually whittling it down, because I mean, a lot of the shorts that we pick are curated as films that we're fond, or at least I am, because I'm usually the one who sort of cherry picks them and stuff. Is they usually have a really high standard anyway, rather than being like screeners or something.
It's not like PR companies sending us them to review. This is stuff that we've actively, or Richard's actively sort out, because there's a good handful of filmmakers now that we know the names of, and we know by their reputation, as it were. So when they do a new film, it's like, great. Let's check that out, because they put out, some of these guys put out so many. Like this French guy, Godfrey Reichardt, he can do about sort of 5 or 6 of these in a year.
Jeez.
Yeah, and to be honest, he put one out recently that I didn't really like very much. It just wasn't. It was more of a.
He's losing it.
No. I think it's just. It's different.
He's in a rut.
Different people.
Yeah.
And it was just like the comedy just wasn't really working for me in that particular instance. Whereas what I like is the style.
Oh, was that the Boglins one?
No, that's Mass Brothers. But yes, that's another good example of a film that I wasn't as fond of. But no, it was called like Karate Nuts or something like that. But it's very sort of I don't know, very French, I suppose. I don't know, but but yeah. So and also if we do come across something that is by someone I know of, or we get a screener and I watch it and I just don't think it's very good, I kind of avoid recommending that we talk about it on the show, because we're not here, we want to build up, we don't want to knock down,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially with the shorts, we want to promote them rather than anything else.
Yeah,
which is kind of why we're only doing a top 5 for the worst films as well. There are some films which
just turn people off.
Yeah. And we're back. So this section, we're going to be looking at our worst 5 films from the year. Bearing in mind how many films we looked at this year, Rich? 166 films. We're just keeping it to 5 each for this round, because we don't want to, we don't want to sort of be a downer on anyone. We don't want to be seen as too snarky. We want to promote the DTV sort of genre, as it were, rather than sort of put it down. So, but these ones are the ones which have stuck in our head, and we cannot ignore anymore. So we're going to yes, we're going to talk about these. And this time, Steve's going to kick us off with his number 5.
Okay, number 5 is a pretty recent one. It is Blonde Purple.
Punt.
Okay.
Rich.
My number 5 is Yeti.
Punt.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 5, and I'm pretty sure neither of you got this. It's a film called Union Bound.
No,
so this is a film set during the American Civil War. It is very low budget. It's basically about 2 soldiers who get captured by the South, taken to a prison. Now, this prison is basically a piece of rope. It's like a rope barrier enclosure where they keep the prisoners, and they somehow ingeniously manage to escape from this rope barrier. And it is one of the slowest films I've ever come across. There's a section in the film. It's like a montage, but it's not really a montage, because it's more or less in real time, where they're fishing or attempting to fish, and it's like a YouTube self-help video of how to fish. Where they just stop the film and just watch these 2. And the weird thing is it's apparently based on a true story. It's based on somebody's memoirs, and this captain had written about his escape, and the fact that he escaped with another prisoner, but he never named the other prisoner. It's like he couldn't be asked to ask this guy's name. They're on the run together across country, getting into these fisticuffs and stuff, and he never bothered to actually capture the guy's name and put it on paper. That's how much he thought of him, basically. I take umbrage at a lot of these so-called westerns and films set in this sort of period, because they look like these sort of reenactment society get-togethers, basically shot on video. They just don't have the scope and epic feel that a western should. So yeah, that is my number 5. So Steve, what is your number 4?
I'm expecting a very big punt on this one. It is Apex Predator.
Punt. And Rich, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is The Ninth Passenger.
Is this the one on the boat?
This is the one on the boat.
This is a weird one. Why don't you explain it, Rich?
So a bunch of kids are going on a party, but like on a yacht to mess about, and there's a guy on there trying to played by Jesse Metcalfe, who's it's like an industrial espionage.
That's right. Yeah,
or something.
He's an industrial spy. Yeah,
he's trying to get some information or something, and it kind of meanders a bit. I mean, it's all sort of character building stuff for quite a long time, and not very interesting characters, and then
very unlikable characters.
Yeah, and it gets to kind of a monster bit towards the end, and it just doesn't really flow, and it's only like 76 minutes long, including credits. But yeah, it just didn't really work. I mean, apparently it's based on a book called Swim Rat Swim
from the 60s, I think it was, and
was it?
long out of print from what I can gather. Yeah.
And directed by Corey Large, who's also an actor. Funnily enough, I was watching him in a film earlier, and he's actor and producer of a lot of these Bruce Willis movies that we're seeing at the moment. So like he was in Cosmic Sin and Anti-Life with Willis, and he was, and as well as being a producer, and he was also a producer of Apex, which we'll talk about in a little while. But yeah, I thought so. So that's probably the fact that he's the director of it is probably the most interesting novelty thing about it. I guess there's not really much else to say about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the list of films that he's done. I mean, he's like listed on pretty much all of Bruce Willis's movies in like the last several years. Yeah. So that's quite. But
what does he know? What does he know? What does he hold on Bruce? So anyway, okay. So my number 4 is The Last Exorcist.
Now I don't think I saw this one. Right?
No, you didn't. Me and Steve caught this one. This has a cameo by Danny Trejo in it, if I remember rightly. This one starts off with a very strange video conference in the Vatican when a guy comes in wearing a sort of monk's robe and a bomb vest and blows up the Vatican, which triggers this woman into having a sort of possession style sort of fit. It's a very strange film.
It was shy. I'll be honest, it was. I mean, if we were doing 10, it'd definitely be there. You know, for me. But it was just.
So the people who made this also made The Coven.
Yeah, the one we watched a while back.
Yeah, the one set on a college campus. Yeah. Which is that's a better film. That's a bit better made, a bit more coherent story, good editing in that one. Unfortunately, no, this one's all over the place.
Yeah, it was dreadful. It really was.
Indeed. So, Steve, you're number 3.
My number 3 is what Rich brought up earlier, Yeti. It was horribly acted, horribly shot, horribly edited, horrible story. I don't think there was really anything redeeming about it. It was awful. It was absolutely terrible.
Well, I like the fact that there was a man in a costume, man in a suit. And there was some, practical, effects for the kills and stuff. I quite like that about it. But yeah, there was a lot. They didn't have. I mean, the budget was clearly restricted.
Like 10p.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the one that starts out with sort of like this wide sort of stock shot of the location that it's supposed to be in, and then it basically becomes, just it's a very sort of different looking location, and the no wide expanses of snow, for example. It's just all set in the woods, and they go out and they look at something on the ground, but they don't show it.
They just show what it is.
Yes,
stuff. It's a bit weird, and
now, it's just a little bit. Was Sherilyn Fenn in this one?
No.
There's another film called Man-Eater.
There were no big name actors in this one.
There's a film called Man-Eater which she was in, which is actually a lot better. This actually had a decent premise in that this team of researchers turn up to find out what had happened to the previous set of researchers at this outpost, which could have.
Isn't that what happened in The Thing?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But and they could have developed something there, but they don't. There's no suspense, there's no sort of mystery given to you, no clues or anything like that to sort of build your interest. It's just like, no, there's a Yeti, it kills people.
And they're apparently they're supposed to be in the Himalayas, which
Right.
just
I
don't
did not get that at all.
And they're looking for, well, that's what it says in the
Canada at
IMDb.
best. Yeah.
Yeah. And it says they're looking for, and I remember now, they were looking for like this rare
A
plant.
plant.
Something.
That's right.
Cure for cancer.
Cure cancer. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay, Rich, what is your number 3?
So my number 3 is a film that's already been mentioned. It's Apex Predator.
Yep.
With our old friend Bruce Willis.
Mm-hmm. It is also my number 3. So carry on.
Oh no, please, Mike, you go ahead.
Where do you start? You know, literally, where do you start with this film? This is, excuse me.
Oh dear.
This, excuse me, give me a minute. You know, this is Bruce Willis doing his Steven Seagal impression. In a case of, instead of like, how can the same shit happen to the same guy twice? This is a case of, how little shit can I get away with actually doing and still get a paycheck? You know, it is ridiculous. This is supposed to be a version of, you know, The Most Dangerous Game, you know, Hard Target, that sort of thing. Surviving the Game, which was a classic. But instead, you know, instead of being hunted or showing any sort of sense of urgency, we get Bruce Willis taking a stroll around what looks like probably his own backyard, having a cigar, while the soundtrack turns to this sort of like fairground circus, like you know, kind of music, as if by that point the director and the composer just looked at each other and go, just do what the fuck you want, you know, basically. Yeah, there's shots of, you know, he doesn't film anything with any other actor. He's, which is a classic Seagal move as well, you know. And it's just terrible. The body doubles are sort of very obvious.
Yeah, because you don't even see the head. It's like cut off at the shoulders, you know. And that one scene that I picked up on where he's firing at someone.
Yeah.
With a
that sort of
flamethrower.
Oh, that's right, the flamethrower, yeah.
And he's in daytime, and the other bloke's in the nighttime. You know, it was shockingly bad.
It's so shocking. You know, they literally just stealing people's money at this point.
The thing about what makes this worse than some of the other Willis movies, which I am catching up on, funnily enough, I watched Cosmic Sin today, which is from the same director as this one, and funnily enough was the writer or co-writer, because the director of this co-wrote it, but the writer was Corey Large, who did The Night Passenger, which we were just talking about. But the thing about this one is, in those other movies, somebody else is the lead, and Willis is kind of the window dressing, you know, they sort of shoehorn him in, or, you know, he's playing a supporting character basically. In this one, he's supposed to be the lead. He is the hero. Yeah. He is the good guy, or the sort of good guy, and, you know, the main protagonist. But we don't spend any time with him. He's not really, you know, proactive or doing it. Or he's not even, like you say, he's not being chased really. He's just kind of sitting down in the woods, which is again becoming a bit of a trademark with these Bruce Willis movies.
SEAL team, whatever. It was a sniper special ops.
Oh man, nothing gets worse. That is nothing gets worse than that, I don't think. But I think Willis has come a long way down, but I think he's still got a fair way to go before he reaches the sort of the depths of the Steven Seagal filmography. But Neil McDonough gets top billing here, which makes you think kind of like he's going to be the main character or whatever. But no, he's like the lead antagonist. So it's a very strange setup.
They could have swapped him out for Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, and the visual effects and stuff are not good. I mean, it's one of these films that's got no money, but it's trying to be set in the future. But then they just shoot it in the woods and put a couple of strip lights in the ground and say that's like a portal to another world, or, you know, portal to travel through space or whatever to get to different locations really easily.
Well, not only that, you've also got the bit where he's supposed to getting off his tits on berries or mushrooms or whatever, and it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah. So Will, there's this scene where he's walking through the woods, picking berries off trees and eating them. And he's got a whole palm full of these things. He's just like knocking them back. And this hologram turns up and goes, "Oh, I wouldn't be doing that if I were you, Mr. Willis. Those are packed full of hallucinogens. You're going to be on a real wacky trip in a minute." And then nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. It's as if Bruce Willis just went, "No, we're not doing that.
No,
we just can't be bothered."
And they do this thing at the beginning, which I don't know if it was misdirection and I just sort of missed the point of it or something. But they're doing like this character build-up of him, of like, oh, he's like the baddest guy in the world or whatever. He hasn't spoken to anyone in like 6 years, and they immediately cut to a scene where he's quite happy to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like what? I don't know if that was intentional or whether that's just bad writing or what. I don't know. It just didn't work. So
it's one thing it gets kind of right, and I'm surprised nobody's done this before, is that they do the whole how badass is this guy scene, which is brilliant sort of action movie trope. And they start listing all these sort of not exactly achievements, these things that happen as injuries and that sort of thing. And basically, they're just listing everything that happened to John McClane in all the Die Hard movies. As if alluding, yes, this guy is basically John McClane. But I thought that bit was not bad. But
you guys were talking about this film, I know, and it was like, does he have any kind of pivotal role at all in the movie, or does he just walk on and?
He's just walking around the woods.
He walks around. Supposed to be the main character, but
he's supposed to be hunted by these.
But there's no momentum. There's no momentum. There's no chasing.
They're actually chasing. When they do come across them, he basically just he kind of tricks them into arguing with themselves, so they end up killing each other, sort of thing. And that's basically all he does. They're such shitty characters that they end up killing each other, and he just sort of like, whoop, my job done here, kind of thing.
Do you think this is like one of those Bowfinger films, and Bruce Willis didn't actually know he was in?
Well, somebody mentioned this on Twitter. It's like, that'll be the next step, because everyone sort of looks at this thinking, they shot this on one of his properties, probably.
It'll be like that Richard Harrison guy. Yeah, and get edited into like.
It will be like Bowfinger. It'll be like, next time they're just going to follow him around. Just put a spy cam on the front of his car, and just film him driving, and then sort of make it look like he's in a car chase or something like that. I reckon they could probably get it. With the same sort of urgency of him sort of dropping his kids off to school or something. We'll try and make it into a like really exciting car chase, and keep cutting back to him just going doop 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 doop. No, it's shocking what he thinks he can get away with, and he has again. Anyway, so that was all of our number 3. So moving on to Steve's number 2.
My number 2 is Brighton.
Oh yeah.
I dodged a bullet with this one.
He dodged a bullet.
Yeah, he dodged a massive fucking bullet.
We were having a shit week that week, weren't we, Steve?
Yeah, it was awful. But,
yeah.
It's the thing is, I really like Larry Lamb, and I love Leslie Sharp. I think they're great actors. In this, every single character is just an absolute cunt. And
racist kind of that, and homophobic.
Racist, homophobic, sexist, just fucking vile people, to be fair. And there's no redeeming features for any of them, and they're just sat in a deck chair acting like twats, and it was just fucking vile and hateful.
So for context, this is based on this is a play by Stephen Burkoff, and it's about these two couples who met during the 60s down in Brighton, hooked up, got married, live in London, whatever, and then in their sort of twilight years, have decided to come back down to Brighton where they first met, for this sort of weekend. and they basically sit in deck chairs just moaning about everything, but
Yeah.
not, it's almost like Waiting for Godot, but not interesting in any way whatsoever.
Yeah,
There's sort of
was
elements of gay rights sort of come into it and things like that, but yeah, no, I did not get any of that. No. I'm not surprised, Steve. That's in your list.
Yeah.
I'd put it out of my memory, so yeah, thanks for reminding me that exists. Rich, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is The Wonderful Final Voyage. Remember this one?
Yes. So
the one where nothing happens.
Yeah, I mentioned before about Union Bound, which was I said this sequence where they're trying to fish and it just goes on forever. The first 30 minutes of this film, it's like one of these amateur mechanics trying to tell you how to do an MOT on your own car, and it is these 2 German convicts who find a spaceship in the desert and spend forever sort of like fixing it in real time, basically to make it spaceworthy.
Yeah, I remember this one. Yeah.
Do you remember it was dubbed?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Didn't make it funny or anything, unfortunately.
No,
it was that sort of typical sort of like German meticulousness of like, well, if you're going to show a spaceship, you've got to show how they get it. How do they get it sort of space-worthy, and how do they sort of fill all the gaps, make it airtight, and things like this. It's like literally showing you in real time how they replace all the circuit boards and things like this. It's ridiculous.
There's this one bit where they go and they find this like cube kind of spaceship thing, if I recall correctly, which is really striking.
And they just drift
and
past
they go
it.
past it. Yeah, it's like it doesn't actually. You think, oh, this is the turning point.
This is where it's going to happen. Oh, it's gone. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Nothing's going to happen anymore. This was a real sci-fi slog. This one.
Yeah.
Cool. Back round to Steve for your number 2. No, it's me. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's my number 2, and we're back with Bruce Willis with Out of Death.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. So Out of Death, Apex Predator, kind of interchangeable in positions as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he sits around in the woods in both of them.
He does sit around in the woods. He wears the same outfit. He wears the same sort of wind cheater, jacket.
He's not going on about his slippers in this one, though.
No, that's not. He's not worried about his slippers. This one has Jamie King, who sees a corrupt cop kill another corrupt cop. Oh, no, corrupt cop killing her drug dealer, and has to sort of leg it up this mountain or something around the corner, while other corrupt cops come to try and hunt her down. And Bruce Willis is a retired cop who's staying with his daughter. And sort of basically stumbles into this, and then stumbles back out.
And then stumbles around, and then stumbles in and out.
It's like, he stumbles into her, and he basically goes, "Oh, I'm going to go back to my house because that's where I've left my gun," and just leaves her to sort of fend for herself for a good chunk of the film, instead of sort of bringing her with him. That would, maybe that would make more sense. But it's another tedious one.
Well, we were saying about off air. We were talking about a trauma center, and that was another sort of one where he ends up with there's a female, strong female lead, and he kind of comes in and he's talking to her or whatever, and then he buggers off. And he did the same in that. He kind of looks after her for a bit, and then he goes, well, and he has another, because in this one he has like this little heart-to-heart moment with like some of his worst acting, where he's saying, oh, stuff's gone in my life or whatever, and it's just really not convincing at all. And he kind of did the same thing in Trauma Center, and in that one he goes, well, I'm just one of those guys who's not the kind of guy who sticks around. And then I was like, that's you describing your approach to acting or whatever. Yeah, it's like he literally disappears and leaves her to it after that, and he does the same thing in this one.
Absolutely crazy guy. Yeah. So,
and it looks like it's shot in someo's backyard.
Again, this is again very similar to Apex in the foliage and things like that. Could very well easily be somewhere that he owns or knows a guy or something. But yeah. Anyway, on to number ones. So, Steve, what is your worst film of 2021?
Battlefield 2025.
The one where the battle only actually starts right in the last minute of the film.
Oh,
Yes.
dear. Literally, yeah.
Yeah. Awful script, awful acting, awful shot. Oh, it was absolute diet. I mean, I've seen adverts that have been scarier and more well produced than this. It was absolutely terrible. It just makes no sense that, Battlefield 2025, like you say, there's one alien wandering around just killing everyone until the last 20 seconds when a shitload of ships turn up.
And it does look like one of the creatures from the first series of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. So Scooby-Doo's probably better, actually. It's like something out of Doctor Who when it first started. It's that bad. It was just terrible. And to be honest, I kind of hated you making me watch it.
It's one of these ones where it's like, oh, there's different groups of people and they somehow intersect on the same day. How is it that these people sort of end up in the same situation on the same day, just as an alien invasion is kind of happening?
I remember not minding this, if I recall correctly. It was just like I didn't mind the characters and stuff. I thought it was quite.
Can I ask?
Mm-hmm.
Were you on glue? I'm sorry, but
there's another film which was kind of similar to this but better produced, and that was Attack of the Unknown.
That was the Richard Grieco one.
That was a couple of steps above this. I actually like the some of the acting, some of the plotting in that one I thought worked quite well. But this one, there was nothing there, nothing to recommend it really at all.
No.
There you go. So, Rich, your worst film of 2021.
So this is kind of a coincidence, really. I hadn't really thought about this until now, but my number 2 was a really dull German sci-fi film. And my number 1 is a really dull German sci-fi film, except this one had no dialogue, at least not much dialogue. Its original title was A Living Dog, but it was released here as A New World Order.
Yeah.
And it's rubbish, in my view.
Remind me of this one.
I
know. Yes.
2 people
with the world. Trying to destroy the radio mast at the end.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
He writes his name down on a bit of paper. Yes, it's trying to be A Quiet Place, except without any rules or anything. I kind of didn't mind this one as much as you guys.
I know. But I just found it incredibly
pretentious.
Tedious, really. I was just waiting for something to happen. Now, I'm not saying they're completely without merit. It's a bit like with Final Voyage, that bit with the cube, striking imagery and whatever. This one had a couple of really nice moments. There was one bit of like dramatic tension and stuff that worked quite well. But
the giant
overall, it's an hour and a half gone basically. I'd much rather if this was a short film, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I think they could have covered all the same bases. I think it would have worked okay, but stretched out, it's just too much.
Okay, my number 1 is the same as Steve's number 5. It is Blonde Purple. Steve, you can kick this off.
Yeah, pretentious, boring. Nothing happening. Wannabe Tarantino. Let's shove some racism in it at the end just for the sake of it. It was just terrible. Really was.
I know. It really
for me, there was a lot I didn't like, but there was quite a bit, in some scenes that I thought were really, really decent and very stylish and stuff. So
it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
No.
It's not enough for me to recommend it,
No.
but no, I mean, it's certainly.
I mean, yes, I agree that there are one or two glimmers in here, a couple of scenes of dialogue, but all of it as a whole, it was, this guy's tongue was so far up Tarantino's ass.
Yeah.
Even down to the diner, a lot of the film is set in a diner, and all these different groups of people just happen to be passing through the same place at the same time, on the same day, and these coincidences sort of building. Oh wow, isn't that cool? No, it really isn't. You got a cowboy hat wearing black dude who listens to country music, driving a Cadillac. It suddenly segues to this Cockney gangster towards the end of the film, so it could explain where a gun came from for no apparent reason. And, but at that point, you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? It starts in media res, which we all know I love.
Well, if you remember, it turns out not to be in media res.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. It starts making us think it's in media res because it starts at the end of the bank robbery, where the guys sort of hold up in the bank, the cops are outside, the negotiator's on the phone being sarcastic, and he's holding a hostage. And I'm sort of dreading the moment where it's going to go 3 days earlier, and then sort of we have to pick up back to them. But it doesn't. That is the actual present day. We do get flashbacks later on, but it does stick to its guns. A lot of flashbacks.
It's a combination. It's riffing on Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs. It's just
exactly
recycling elements of that, which I mean, it's surprising. I mean, this film's got a reasonable budget. I mean, some of the scenes look really good, some of them look really cheap, but others look really good. So they've got a decent budget, and yet it's just recycling this stuff that is already so well known that it's
that's the thing.
It's disappointing from that respect, really.
It feels like a student film. That's what it felt like to me. It's like some script writers, first attempt at producing a script. Things to do in Denver when you're dead, killing Zoe, all of those sort of things, that came in the wake of Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and that's what this feels like. It tries to throw in a bit of Black Lives Matter, but it just does not work at all.
Interestingly, it's not a debut feature. It's like I think it's the third feature directed by the writer director Marcus Flemings. He did a film called Palindrome, which I think is on like Plex or something. I've come across it, and then there's another one called 6 Rounds. Neither a big film. This is probably the film that has the better shot of sort of a high profile, because it's got a sexy poster and stuff, sort of quite eye-catching colors and stuff in it.
And I think
the title's impenetrable.
Yeah.
So
I think that's part of it as well. I think that's why it's ended up as my worst film, because it should be better. There's certain films which don't have the budget. There's loads of films which we have covered. Things like The Ghost of Borley Rectory, which has zero budget really. And is sort of clutching at straws with its cast, but stands head and shoulders above this, because it tries its hardest to deliver something. This, and again, I alluded when we reviewed this, is it because we're old and we've just seen so much that we can instantly go, yeah, that's Pulp Fiction that he's doing, that's Reservoir Dogs,
Plus with a bit Guy Ritchie thrown in there as well.
A bit of Guy Ritchie. But like I said at the time, Tarantino, he developed his style based upon the greats of the past. He was standing on the shoulders of giants when he did his films. The fact that his production company is called A Band Apart, which is a new wave French film, says a lot about who he is. But this, and other films that we've seen, like Habit, where you just get the feeling that they can't see the wood for the trees. It's like, yes, that's the guy we want to be like, but without doing the groundwork to sort of develop a style of their own. But there you go. So that is our worst film of this year.
So what are the 3 worst films in our view, Mike?
3 worst films. Well, 2 worst films are Blonde Purple and what was yours? Battlefield.
2025.
25. Yeah, and what was yours, Rich?
A New World Order.
New World Order. Yeah. So that is our bottom 3. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to sort of cheer ourselves up with looking at the best of 2021. And we're back again. This time we're looking at our favorite films of the year. This is our top 10. And this time it's going to be Rich kicking us off with your number 10.
Oh, now see, this list was really hard. So we've had some really good films this year. So almost arbitrarily, because there's so many different films I could have put at number 10, but I'm going to go for Lapsis. Because I was really quite struck by that film.
Yeah. That was one of the stranger films we've had this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of this sort of working class sort of sci-fi thing, really. Not in a sort of a Brazil kind of way, but set in a future where technology's kind of moved on, and it's all sort of, I don't know, quantum computers and things. But there's this guy who's just trying to make a living, and he kind of gets caught up in this cabling, company. They hire people to just, a bit like delivery people basically at the moment, just hiring anyone and everyone to just move things around, and they have to go and trail cable. And then there's these little robots, and they've got to try and avoid the robots overtaking them, and they're constantly being pressured, a bit like drivers. You can't take a break. You got to keep on with the deliveries and things like that. So it's kind of, I don't know if parable's the right word or anything, but there's something really interesting about it. Well, something I found really interesting about it. I don't think everyone was as taken with it as me, but it's kind of, it's not arty, but it's not mainstream either. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
It's kind of like a mixed metaphor / parable kind of thing, isn't it? Because this element where he's got into this profession via the back door, so he's able to sort of step over a lot of the people at the ground level and sort of pick up a lot of perks and stuff, even though he didn't realize that was what was happening at first. But yeah, there were some very interesting elements to it. I agree with that.
Yeah, so it was kind of like an indie film, I guess you would sort of class it as. Made by let's credit the director Noah Hutton. I think it's I definitely think it's worth seeking out.
Yeah, definitely different. Steve, what was your number 10?
My number 10 was Ripper Untold.
Oh, good shout. Punt. We've got a punt there from Steve. Okay, my number 10 is Death Ranch.
No, I didn't see this one. This is a Charlie Creed one.
Yes, Charlie Steed. Yeah,
Steeds.
Yeah. So it's very bloodthirsty, very, very dark at times, but brilliantly done. This is a proper sort of exploitation homage about a escaped convict who meets up with his brother and sister, who've a distant relative has got an old ranch, an old barn that they can sort of hide out in. Little do they realize that next door, the Ku Klux Klan are burning people to the stake, basically. And one night he discovers this, and he goes out and tries to stop them. And obviously, they come after them. It does get very brutal, very bloody. A lot of it's shot during the daytime. The clan members, they don't get any characterization whatsoever. They're clan members, and their white robes are pretty good for getting covered in the claret. It's just brilliant. I can't remember the name of the actress who plays the sister, but she gets some awesome badass lines in this film. And there's a really harrowing bit, which in Kill Bill, where you've got Buck who likes to fuck. And his tub of Vaseline. Yeah, imagine that tub of Vaseline, but in this film, it's bad. And the editing for that scene, the way it sort of builds up is absolutely superbly done. It will make you squirm. But yeah, Charlie Steeds is a director I heartily recommend. I've watched his A Werewolf in England. It's not one we covered, but we do have his Werewolf Castle coming up in the new year. So yeah, he's one of those directors to keep an eye out for. So Rich, what is your number 9?
So I'll be very surprised if you haven't got this higher up, but for me it's number 9. It's Repeat.
Punt.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay, and Steve, what's your number 9?
My number 9 was Wrath of Man.
Right, yeah. Was that another punt?
Yes, punt.
Okay. Okay, my number 9, and I know this isn't on either of your list, is Bigfoot Hunters.
Oh no, I didn't see this one.
This was a really good comedy. In my eyes, it's about a guy who is like a news reporter for an online news agency, but he keeps getting sent to do these sort of fluff pieces. You know, he's sent out to somewhere like Chechnya, only to sort of discuss their craft beer culture that's out there or something. You know, really something stupid. So you know, he gets this thing to go to this Bigfoot convention in Arizona of all places, and he meets up with this Bigfoot hunter guy who claims he's seen Bigfoot and this sort of stuff. It's just really well shot. It's just him and this cameraman, and him bitching a lot of the time, and this crazy Bigfoot hunter guy, and it goes to some interesting places. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was actually it was good, decent film actually.
Okay. So moving on to Rich's number 7.
Okay, so my number 7 is The Aform.
Number 8.
Oh God! Right, let's start that again.
Hang on. No, hang on.
Is it not?
No.
Hang on. Yeah, 8. Yeah,
8.
It's 8.
Yeah,
Yeah,
8.
it's 8.
Oh, sorry. That's because I didn't number mine. Yeah. Anyway, so again. Anyway, it's time for Rich's number 8,
which is Ripper Untold.
Cool.
Aha.
Now, Steve, I punted you, so please go ahead.
Yeah. It was just one of them that I didn't really expect to like. You know, you kind of think it's been told before, you know, and blah blah blah. But I thought the characters are great. Especially, you know, like the alcoholic doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought what they did was a really good job with obviously a very, very limited budget. I think there's only like three locations in the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, you've got like the autopsy, the police station, and the brothel. And that's about it, really. And the guy's house, but yeah, it just really worked for me. I really enjoyed it, and it kind of reminded me of the Batman one, you know, Gotham by Gaslight.
Yes,
where
that's right.
You know, you kind of suss out who the actual killer is pretty much when they drop the clues, basically. But it still worked and was still really enjoyable. I just thought for what it was and for what it cost, and you know, there's nobody in it who anyone has ever heard of, but I just thought it was really enjoyable and a really decent film.
Yep. And Rich, you want to add your bit?
Yeah. So this really surprised me as well. I haven't watched one of Steve Lawson's films in a few years. I'm a bit behind. But I've always been quite interested in his films. They're always very low budget, but he tries lots of different things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And now he's gone period, which is very risky with a really low budget. And he's kind of settled into doing these, you know, costume horror films, basically. So he started out with Bram Stoker's Van Helsing, which I've yet to see.
Yeah, even though we've got a quote on the DVD cover.
Yeah, because we got, because they ask you for quotes based on the trailer sometimes, which I'm not really cool with that. I don't really like that very much. I think that's a bit misleading. But but Van Helsing looked quite interesting. I'm very keen to see it. And now he's done this one, and the next one he's got, actually, it's coming out just after Christmas, probably by the time you're listening to this, perhaps, is Jekyll and Hyde. And then he's doing another one called The Fourth Musketeer. So he's doing a lot of this sort of period stuff. And I think, this one I was really taken with. I thought he did a really good job with a limited budget. It stands out. It's different. So much of the horror that we see, it's not, the lead is like a gentleman getting on it. Well, actually, there's two lead gentlemen getting on there. He is. And, the situation, the setting, it's sort of very well-worn territory, but it does something that still feels a bit fresh. There's sort of a nice, twist in the tale and stuff. I just thought it was a great, a really good example of low-budget genre filmmaking that's, doing something that we know, but giving you something a bit different at the same time. I thought it was really distinctive. And I love the performances.
Yeah, good one. Okay, so Steve, what is your number 8?
My number 8 was Witch Hunt.
Punt.
Okay.
Yeah, punt from me as well.
Yeah. My number 8 is The Stylist. So this is Jill Gavazian's horribly messed up her name already. Film based on her shorts that she did with Najara Townsend. I just thought this was a really clever psychological thriller with some horror elements. Brilliant performance by Najara Townsend in this. Just really, really worked for me. Really enjoyed it.
It's really it's really clever when you create a monster and then make them sympathetic. Have them doing these terrible, terrible things, but yet you still warm to them. I think, or feel sympathy for them. I think there's something very tragic about her character.
There's the two performances right at the end of the film. The final scene with Najara Townsend's character and the groom, and the way he tries to interpret. His eyes are trying to deal with what he's actually seeing. And it's like one of those weird pictures where the mouth's upside down, and the rest of the face is the right way up. And he doesn't quite get it at first, and it suddenly dawns on him what he's actually looking at. And then the very final scene, the final moment of that scene, when I think either a door slams or a siren goes off, and Najara Townsend's character basically comes out of her cloud, her sort of idyllic cloud that she's in her head, and suddenly the enormity of what's happened sort of hits her. It's just brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so that is my number 8. So moving on to Richard's number 7.
So my number 7 is a film that the original title was Bumper Cleef. It's released over here as Tailgate.
Tailgate, yes.
It's a Dutch horror movie, sort of black comedy, really, of a guy tracking down this family, and trying to take him out. I just thought it had it's Dutch. It's kind of got its own identity. It's got this Dick Maas kind of sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
Where there's it's quite pedestrian, a lot of it, but it's sort of the real world sort of.
Yeah, it could happen to any of us, couldn't it? Basically, is what it boils down to. Is that this isn't sort of like an old spooky house or a backwoods farm or anything like that. This is just sort of typical highway with a nutter who's taken umbrage to the fact that somebody cut him up or whatever it is.
Well, there was a similar film called Unhinged with Russell Crowe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which which is a very similar theme, but tackles it in a completely different way. That goes like full on sort of chase thriller. Get the thrills and and this does have fast driving and whatever of people being chased or whatever, but it's a completely different feel. And then it sort of plays out in a very similar fashion to Unhinged. It all sort of ends in a very domestic sort of setting at the end, and that. But there's just something so unique and novel about this as being a Dutch production. I think that it makes it a really novel experience. Watching it.
Steve, what is your number 7?
My number 7 was Ankle Biters.
Oh, cool.
Again,
also known
quite
as
a
Cherry
recent.
Picker.
Oh, Cherry Picker, yeah. Again, quite a recent one, but it was just, believable. I thought the kids were really good, really, because they weren't creepy kids, if you know what I mean. They were just kind of like innocent and naive and stuff like that. And the main guy, what was his called? Lewis? No. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. The hockey player.
The hockey guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Who was a really sympathetic character, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. You get the name Ankle Biters and you kind of get the gist, or you watch the trailer and you think, right, okay. But he's just such a nice guy. He's not doing anything wrong. He's just trying to be a stepdad to him. And, they catch this video of him and his missus getting a bit kinky and they think that he's trying to hurt the mum. Yeah, and it's like a comedy of errors, but it could be and could happen, you know what I mean? But it was just really, really well done and quite a really decent black comedy, basically. But it's not your laugh out loud comedy type thing. It's just more situational comedy. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Won it. Yeah. Really, really good.
So my number 7, this one we've already punted, is Witch Hunt.
Yes.
So, Rich, did you punt this one as well, or?
I did punt it, and actually, it's a bit higher up.
Okay, let's move on to Rich's number 6.
So this is another foreign language film. It's The Columnist.
Yeah. Good one.
Which was from
Denmark.
I think it's
Holland, wasn't it?
Oh, Holland. Let me have just a quick check because I don't want to get this wrong. But I thought it was really good, very stylish. Again, it's sort of touching on stuff we've seen before, like sort of American Psycho-ish kind of stuff, really. But it's Dutch, from the Netherlands.
All right.
Dutch. So so the lead character is is she like a blogger or a
sort of newspaper?
She's a columnist on a newspaper or something, and she basically gets sort of targeted on like social media and stuff, and she starts to crack and become sort of start taking people out. So, like her next door neighbor, for example, who starts starts trolling her and things like that. I just thought it's something we've seen before, but again, it's kind of that Dutch take, seeing that sort of slightly different.
Because the Dutch are meant to be all sort of laid back and sort of free and easy and all the rest of it, aren't they? And all of a sudden, this hits you. It kind of reminded me as well of the ending of the first Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, where they print out everyone's address who sort of badmouthed them in the past, and just goes around beating up all these kids. Really, really funny. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, I must admit.
It's kind of I watched the film Karen recently, which is the based on Karens, and it's a very different film to this, but similar in a certain respect of like this, sort of happy, sort of smiling, character who's actually got this sort of evil bubbling under the surface kind of thing. And but the thing about this one is you actually like her character and you kind of
agree with it.
You sympathise and to a certain extent agree. Yeah. So it's kind of got a bit like Serial Mom, really, which with Kathleen Turner from back in the day, which I was a big fan of. I think I mentioned that when we reviewed it, and just think it, and she's got, it's just it's it's definitely worth checking out. I don't know where it's available or whatever, but I know it is. It's not as easy. I mean, a lot of the films that we're talking about today, you can pretty much find on Amazon Prime or Netflix or something. But The Columnist, I'm not sure. It's
I think that went to Shudder.
You've got to look a bit harder.
Yeah, I think it went online to
Shudder.
Shudder.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be.
Okay, Steve, you're number 6.
I'm expecting a punt off at least one of you on this one. My number 6 is The Swordsman.
Punt. It's coughing away. Yes, so my number 6 is Witch Hunt, which we discussed.
And I'm going to have to say punt again because I've got
did
it
I
a
already
little
say
bit
that?
higher up.
Just say that again. Okay. So, Rich, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Black Medicine.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Which is kind of like set in the sort of black market organs kind of area with this. She's a surgeon who's kind of been struck off, and she's making a living, doing illegal operations for the underworld and whatnot. And she I think if I recall correctly, she gets there's a girl, and she starts to help her, but then it kind of puts her between a rock and a hard place between her, because her employers want the girl because they want the organ.
Yeah,
am I right?
Yes,
yeah.
that's
Is
right.
that how
So,
it works? Yeah.
Yes, so as the matriarch of the this crime family has a sick daughter, and they basically paid this other girl to donate her kidneys to her, but I don't think they plan to sort of keep her around afterwards. So she's in this sort of very ethical dilemma of helping the crime family by basically killing this girl to save another girl's life, or denying them and trying to save the other girl, as it were. It's very interesting. Very, the way she sort of kind of solves the situation is very interesting.
Yeah, I think, and the funny thing, it's, as you heard, I was sort of struggling to think of what it was about. I mean, a lot of these things with the list, I've only seen them once, but it's the impression that they left on me that I've sort of based my rankings off. I mean, I really remember enjoying this a lot, and it's definitely a film that I can see myself going back and watching again. I think it was Irish.
It is, set in Northern Ireland.
So Northern Irish film, and it's a thriller. It's really well shot. I mean, the lead performance, she's a very she doesn't say a lot, does she? She's very stoic. And then it's kind of between her and, as you say, the sort of matriarch. It's a very female-led movie. Most of the characters are women, which again is quite unusual for this guy. And as I was just saying a minute ago, with so many of these films that you can find them on Amazon, this is one of them.
Yeah. Steve, what was your number 5?
My number 5 was Greenland.
Oh, Jared Butler.
Gerard. Yeah. Again, kind of came out of nowhere, straight to Amazon and whatever. But it wasn't your typical, Armageddon. It's going to blow up the world, and it's just a lot more thoughtful than that. Especially with the trying to get the medicine for the kid, and getting split up for the family, and then getting denied, being on the rockets or whatever, and it was just. Not what you'd expect.
It's definitely a cut above, isn't
it?
It's not Roman Emmerich. Like you say, it's more than just spectacle.
Yeah, there's a lot of heart in there and a lot of family, stuff like that, and
very thrilling because there's that whole section where the child gets taken away because they want to use her to get into, use her like a key, basically to get into a place and whatever. That's terrifying stuff.
Definitely. Cool. Okay. My number 5 is Deliver Us from Evil. So this is the Korean film that we reviewed right at the beginning of the year, in which a Korean gangster has to go and find his estranged daughter, because the mother's just recently died, and he's pissed off a lot of people, and basically there's a hitman sent after him called Mad Dog, Was it the Mad Dog or the Butcher?
Yeah.
No, it was the Butcher, wasn't it? I think it was called the Butcher. And the action just escalates and gets. It's almost like spy versus spy, with these two sort of very skilled sort of action people sort of trying to outdo each other. It's a really solid film. Really enjoyed it. Rich, you're number 4.
Well, we've already mentioned it a couple of times, and now you've got your chance to talk about it. It's Witch Hunt.
Yay!
Hey.
I was expecting a typical teen horror movie, I guess. I really didn't know what to expect out of this until that very first image that you get on this film. It's one of those films which grabs you right from the start with the very first thing it shows you. And the very first thing it shows you is this woman tied to a stake while 2 prison wardens are stood either side of her. And it's like, what the fuck am I watching? This is a brilliant allegory for Trump's America. This is very much of that era. We're only a year away from it already, but and we can sort of kind of look back. But in this world, witchcraft actually exists. So what does America do? It bans it and oppresses it as much as it possibly can. And the world building is impeccable in this. Everything in this just works really, really well. The relationships work, the world building, the mythology surrounding the witchcraft. I just thought it worked really, really well. And the scene with the witchfinder guy, which is very much like the opening scene of Inglourious Basterds with Christoph Waltz. That sort of thing. Really, really worked for me. Totally loved it. Okay, over to you guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it wasn't anything like I was expecting at all. I was expecting something like The Craft or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was a lot more deeper than that, and it wasn't over the top with the witchcraft and any type of gore or anything like that. But there was still some really unsettling scenes, like especially like the swimming pool dunking, basically.
Oh yeah.
That was like, whoa, shit. That really, got to be that scene. And like I say, when the witch hunter turns up, he's the evil character, basically. He's switched over. The witches they're just trying to live their lives and not do anything dodgy. Yeah, I was really, really impressed with this because it was just completely not what I expected and was something different and fresh and just really well done. And I thought the performances are great as well.
Cool. Rich?
Yeah, well, you guys have said it all, really. It's a very clever, subtle allegory. It's young adult, but it's not inaccessible for mature audiences. I think it's basically open to anyone to watch it. It's very female focused. It's like you say, it's not a film where the witches, it's like The Craft or whatever. They're usually, at least one of them's trying to do a spell on a boy to fall in love or stuff like that. There's no love interests or anything really in this, as far as I recall. It's all about sisterhood and the sort of Underground Railroad kind of stuff that's going on. So it's more about racism than anything else, I think. And it was a really real pleasant surprise.
Absolutely. If anyone out there has Shudder, I do recommend director Ellie Callahan's other film, Headcount, which you can find there. That is a really good, smart film as well, with sort of some really good edited moments. Really, really enjoy that one too. Okay. Steve,
don't confuse me like that.
I know. Somewhere along the line I've missed one, but there you go. Steve, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
So much better than the. Oh, God's sake! I'm catching up Rich now. I think so much better than the theatrical version that was released. Okay, it was a bit long, but I think majority of it worked. I don't think there was a bad plot line in there, really. You know, even for Cyborg coming to the fore a lot made the film a hell of a lot better than like I said, like the theatrical cut. All the little cheesy shit jokes that Joss Whedon put in were taken out of there, and obviously it's Zack Snyder, it's well shot. It's got the budget, it's got everything, and it was just all in all a completely different film that was 10 times better than the original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I really liked it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of some of what Snyder's done, or even any of the sort of recent DC superhero movies, but it's a long, almost 4 hours long, but I was gripped, pretty much the whole time. I really wanted to watch it in one go as much as I could, and it was an event, and I think it was something really exciting that it came out. I think it was on Sky over here, wasn't it?
Yeah,
HBO in the States.
Yeah, very well. Right, I'm going to record 2 bits because I've definitely missed out one. So I'm going to just do a number 5, and then I'll re-edit it later on. So my number 4 is Silence and Darkness, which I think only me and Will reviewed this one. So this is about 2 sisters. One is blind from birth and the other is deaf from birth. And they're now sort of in their late teens. They live with their dad in this sort of secluded sort of village, on the outskirts of this village, and lead a pretty idyllic life with their dad until we learn that the dad's not as perfect as he seems. When he's away from his kids, we sort of kind of see what he's really like, and then we sort of get to see a bit more. And what we learn is that he's conducting this sort of lifelong inhuman experiment on his own children. And he tries to sort of put on a passionless facade, that he's doing this with a very sort of emotionally detached eye. But as the film develops, you realize he's actually insanely jealous of their relationship, their sort of sibling relationship. And he keeps doing things to try and sabotage it in really horrible ways. But the film is brilliant. It's shot in very long takes, very little dialogue, because a lot of the time the girls are communicating with each other using sign language, sort of just drawing on each other's hands. But there's this one particular sequence where the blind girl comes out during the night. She hears something in the distance in the woods, and it kind of sounds like to her someone burying a body. So the next day, she, her sister tries to help her find out which part of the forest the sound was coming from. It's just really, really well done. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Will, you saw this one. You got anything to add?
Yeah, no, that was a standout sequence for me. I'd never seen anything done quite like it on a film, and that scene like that only really works when they've painstakingly built up sort of how the girls communicate, and you can't underestimate the sort of the level of talent and ability that the girls have, in terms of portraying, a character.
Because I'm not sure. I don't know if they're actually deaf and blind, or if they just were able to act it really well. It's
exactly that's the point. You've got a character that can't vocalize, so like her performance had to sort of build a character that for most people, if you're hearing, you're not going to you have to sort of like learn her language and her sort of communication and expression, and then like the way they spoke to each other was so kind of unique, and it was just fascinating to watch. And like that film was the tense times, like the sort of the scenes of tension were just, they were standout. They were brilliant. It would be near my number one if I did able to compile a list.
There's to give you an idea of sort of the way the dad is. He when he's with them, he's sort of totally doting. Sort of giving them sort of advice, and he's educating them and this sort of thing. And the blind girl is she's a big Bob Dylan fan, and decides that she and her sister are going to enter this talent contest in the village. So she teaches her sister, who's deaf, how to play the guitar. To follow the thing, and they do this performance at this thing, and the dad's at the back of the room. He just goes, "Well, that was a bit shit." that was rather underwhelming, wasn't it?
He's just
insanely jealous of what they're doing. But it's he's trying to be like, no, I'm a scientist. I'm taking all these notes and being incredibly detached and dispassionate about what I'm doing. But he's a complete bastard.
Yeah, it's one of the best villains I think that we've seen, because he was just it's so hideous. Just sitting there thinking, how could you possibly do that?
Yeah. This was available to rent on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it still is, but if you do get a chance to check it out,
you can rent it. You can rent it, but it's not part of.
It's not one of the membership bits, but you pick it up.
You've made me really want to see it. It sounds amazing.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, so Rich, you're number 3.
My number 3. Okay, so I kind of messed up my list a little bit, and
you and me both.
So I'm making a call on an action sort of movie here. So I'm torn between Paper Tigers and Castle Falls, and I'm going to go for Paper Tigers.
Okay, yeah.
Which we saw at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival, and then it got a digital release. It's not on DVD, but you can get it digitally. It's just such a great movie. Really has a lot of heart, touches on a lot of martial arts movie conventions and things, but it's more about it's more like a bromance movie. It's about friendship and growing up, and sort of arrested development, and maturity, and but yeah, it's got this kind of action theme to it. It builds up to a climax on top of a rooftop, and
somebody's killed their master.
Yeah, somebody's killed their master and stuff. It's touching on that, but it does it it's such a completely fresh, original way. I mean, it's like indie martial arts. It doesn't fit into any particular box. It's kind of its own thing, and you got to respect that. It's just, I think it's very accessible for whether people are into martial arts movies or not. I think they'd enjoy getting to know the characters and the fun and the jokes and the drama and the the heart that the film has.
There's brilliant interplay between the characters, like the guy who is like the number one disciple of the Chinese school, who's American, but he tries to act Chinese and speak Chinese, which is quite amusing.
The Master Ken guy.
Master Ken, yeah. I thought
he's not Master Ken in this, but Master Ken in his other project.
Yeah,
he does.
But and then the appearance of Martial Club as well. The brothers turning up.
Yeah, and they've had a great year. They've been all over the place doing great stuff.
Yeah.
And this Ron Yuan and his brother Roger Yuan are in this, it's a great.
It's a really cool film.
Really great cast. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money to work with, but boy, they really made they made something special here. And Fighting Spirit was the perfect place to showcase it.
Absolutely. Steve, you're number 3.
1 second, I'll fire out just on my list. My number 3, again, recent one, from last week, Achora.
Yep, very good.
Was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thought it was well shot. The script was fantastic. The way, because I was a bit frustrated at first because nothing seemed to be coming together. There's all these little separate bits, but the way it actually melded it together, and brought all the characters together and the storylines together. I thought was really, really well done, really well shot. I'd say my only gripe was some of the effects were a little bit ropey, but apart from that, absolutely loved it. Thought it was absolutely great.
Will, you saw this one, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't review it that long ago, and I think we were all pretty much the same mind. I mean, there was it was a bit like, I know what you mean. It was the black smoke effects was a bit kind of. It's been a bit recently overused, and you're just immediately thinking of, like, I don't know, Harry Potter and so on and so forth. And it's a bit of a shame, but I think that they like, either it's part of the mythology of what they were trying to portray, or they were struggling for another way to kind of convey that thing. And it all linked in with how they did the title sequence as well. That was like a big part of like the whole intro to the film. But I mean, you're right. It's a bit like, considering some of the effects were absolutely brilliant and clearly had been done with not a lot of money, but with just a huge amount of effort and work. But like, that whole film was awesome, and you're thinking that you'd go to the cinema really and be sort of pretty happy with it, because I bet some of that stuff would play out quite well on the big screen, but you certainly wouldn't need to. It worked on the small screen really well, because it's just a bloody good film, really.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so my number 3 is Repeat, which had been punted earlier.
Yes.
punts.
Even higher up.
Ooh.
Awesome. Okay, moving on. Rich, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is the Italian film Into the Labyrinth.
Yay, I knew this would be on your
with
list.
Dustin Hoffman. I was just so captivated by it. It was so intriguing. It's adapted. It's directed by the novelist Donato Carisi, based on his own novel. Which I promptly went and read afterwards, because there's a lot of mysteries and things to unravel in the film, and I sort of got them from the book a bit, but it sort of brought up some other things as well. But it's intriguing because it's got Dustin Hoffman plastered all over the cover, and his scenes are all shot in English, but then the rest of it is all in Italian. So it's very strange. There's nothing in the book that would suggest anything like that. That's purely a choice that they made for the feature for the film, and the fact they managed to get Dustin Hoffman on board and he doesn't speak Italian, I guess, is the reason for that. I don't know, but the film, it's a very stylish, great cinematography, really intriguing. It's kind of like a bit like a 90s thriller, really, more like a Crimson
Silence
Rivers
of the Lambs or something,
that sort of stuff. Silence of the Lambs and different things. There's different layers to it, and a nice little resolution at the end. Well, not resolution, but sort of a suspenseful conclusion. Things. I loved it so much.
Yeah, I must admit, I thoroughly enjoyed this one as well. Cool. Okay, Steve, your number 2.
My number 2 is Repeat.
Awesome. Yeah, no one had it higher. Cool. No. Okay, off you go, mate. You can kick off with this one.
Again, I just thought it was absolutely riveting, really well done. Because it does start off with that seems to be a bit of media res, and then the story kicks in, and he's trying to connect to dead people through his machine that he's working with, but his daughter's missing. Obviously the strains on his relationship with his wife, but he throws himself into his work. And I just thought, I was very surprised, because Charlotte Ritchie, I've only seen her really in Taskmaster, but I know she's in Ghosts, and mainly a comedic actress from what I've seen, from what I know of her. And I just thought she was great. I thought the guy playing her husband, he was great as well. And
Tom England.
So, and it's just a really well thought out and really well done story. And again, I don't think they had hardly any money to do it, but the way they've done it and how they've done it, I just thought was absolutely amazing. Really loved it.
Yeah, it's got a brilliant premise for one thing, and the way it twists that premise later on, and everything falls into place. and you realise the horror of the situation that he's created. It's just absolutely brilliant. You just let it sink in a little bit that what's actually been happening and the consequences. Thoroughly enjoyed this. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had it a bit lower on the list, but I was equally impressed by it. It's okay. It's got that very distinctive sort of, it's a sci-fi film, but it's also a very domestic, sort of low budget, sort of family, sort of film. And, it feels a bit different to everything else that we've seen, especially or sort of in the science fiction genre, even though it's using certain conventions and, plot twists and whatever that we have seen in other films. But it's a really good little British movie that really deserves to be sought out. So any word of mouth that we can do to sort of help that along is a pleasure for us.
Absolutely. Okay, so my number 2, and I know this isn't on either of your lists. For the Sake of Vicious.
I knew this was
coming. This is it is literally one of the most vicious films we've covered. A woman arrives home from work and discovers 2 men in her kitchen. One of them's tied to the chair and being beaten up, and the other one is asking her for help, which is a very strange situation. And it just gets even stranger from there when a gang of motorcycle helmet wearing gangsters turn up and lay siege to the house. Some of the editing, the cinematography, just really work. It really manages to build tension. When I was watching this, I remember having to sort of literally hit pause halfway through, go downstairs, make a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and then come back and finish it, because it's not for the faint-hearted, this one for sure, but it is very well done. Okay, here we go. The number 1 slot for Richard.
Okay, so it seems a bit unfair to say this, but my number 1 is Wrath of Man, the Guy Ritchie film with Jason Statham, which we reviewed in episode 180.
Last week.
Recently.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, it's unfair because it is a big Hollywood movie that Amazon just bought because they could. Really, it's not. It's only. I think it's only ended up DTV for that reason, not through any poor box office or anything like that, as far as I'm aware. It's not perfect by any means. I mean, for example, I don't think Statham's performance is, or at least his character doesn't have a huge amount to work with. He's basically scowling all the time, but all the characters around him and the design and the music and the plot twists and stuff, it just worked for me so well. I've watched it twice now. I'm really keen to watch it again. Steve, you had this on your list as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. It's different from what I'd normally expect from Statham. It's a bit, even Guy Ritchie, it's, the different timelines, jumping from place to place, and there's that intrigue going all the way through, really. And yeah, I watched it with the wife last week. Even the wife enjoyed it as well. She thought it was really good. And yeah, it kind of does what it says it should, but it does it in a different way, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And that's what I liked about it.
Awesome. Okay, so Steve, what was your number 1?
My number 1 was Werewolves Within.
Fantastic. Because I was just about to say, if you haven't mentioned it, I wanted to mention it as an honourable mention, because I'm so glad you said that.
It's a classic.
It's just a whole lot of fun and really well shot. Probably the best video game adaptation. I know it's very, very loosely based on the video game from what I've seen. But yeah, it's just so much fun. You got your scariness.
The characters are great, aren't they?
Yeah, the characters are bouncing off each other all the time. The script is excellent. I'm really, really getting into Sam Richardson now because of this. I think he's absolutely, he's great. I've watched a couple of other things with him in, listened to a couple of podcasts with him on as well, and really enjoying him. And it's just so much fun. It's one of them I could watch over and over again. I mean, I really need to watch it again. Is it on Shudder again? Because I'll be honest,
it's coming on Netflix. It's coming on Netflix,
right? Because I've been struggling to find it.
Yeah,
recently.
It's due to come on Netflix soon.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'll be watching that when it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just really well shot as well. Like especially when they're in the hotel, with especially scenes with the doctor walks away. I just thought it just works. It really is good. It really is a great film.
Yeah, when I first watched it, what it felt like was an American version of Edgar Wright's. Edgar Wright.
Yeah,
it's got that sort of editing and timing. The bit when the doctor, the professor first turns up is just really funny. Just the timing of it just really, really worked. Really enjoyed it. Have you seen The Wolf of Snow Hollow?
No, I really want to see it. I'll have a look at that then.
Yeah, that's very good as well. Different kind of humor, but works really well. Okay, so my number one, considering that Steve punted this right at the beginning of the list, and hasn't appeared on mine yet, so you know what it is. It is The Swordsman. Again, this is a film we covered right at the beginning of the year. I just absolutely love this. It's nothing new. It's basically Taken with swords, but it works really, really well. And Joe Taslim as the bad guy, he puts in a performance which is on the same level as Orlando Bloom in The Three Musketeers, the one with Mila Jovovich, because he chews the scenery like crazy in that film. And it's almost as if he's channeling Orlando Bloom here with his sort of smarm and sort of, the way he struts around the place. The action is superb. The sword fights just absolutely superbly well done. We covered so many films, only a handful I will actually go out of my way to purchase. After the fact, and this one was a no-brainer for me. It's almost, in fact, while I was actually watching the screener that sent us to review, I was actually typing in an order into Amazon. That's how much I like this.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was absolutely beautiful to look at, and just the action was great. The bad guy is an absolute bastard, and like you say, choose the scenery. And the main character, Taeyu, yeah. Again, it was great. I really, really enjoyed this. It's so beautifully choreographed, and that final, not battle, but where he's just hacking everyone to pieces. Where that 400 to 1. Tried doing it, tried doing that for a full 90 minutes.
No,
this does it in like the 20 minute crescendo, and it works.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. Okay, I believe that is our list.
Any honourable mentions?
I got one or two, but they're not films we covered. They are DTV, but unfortunately we never got around to reviewing them. One of them's The Paintball Massacre.
Oh yeah. One with the guy from was it
Steps?
Steps.
Yeah. It's also got Katie Brand in it, and she's actually rubbish. But what it does have is a brilliant script. It's also got Cheryl Burniston. She plays this character who, there's a high school reunion at this place. They're going to be playing paintball the next day, and her boyfriend is like the most popular guy at school, but he's not there. He sent his girlfriend instead. And they were like moaning because she was the one that, you know, they always took piss out of, and, you know, she was the goody two shoes sort of thing. But then during the paintball game, people start getting murdered, and they're getting murdered in the style of whatever their profession is, you know. So lifeguard gets drowned, you know, sort of estate agent has a for sale sign driven through his chest, you know, this sort of stuff. And it just works really well. And the script itself, you know, is really well written. I really, really liked it. You know, very low budget, but I think it's one of those films that does punch above its weight. How about you guys, Rich?
I could mention quite a few, but I'm just gonna. I mean, Stealing Chaplin, I thought was worth a look. Bloody Hell.
Yes, I like that one.
Almost made it into my list. Devil's Machine I liked a lot, but I mean, we've been lucky. We've had a lot of good films this year, and as you say, there's been loads that we haven't been able to cover.
Another one actually is Disappearance at Lake Elrod. That was very good. It was
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was about a missing girl case, and this you know, her mum. Sort of, you know, a year after her disappearance, she's still sort of trying to find her, sort of thing. And then another girl goes missing, so she's like, pressuring the police and everything. And it's just a brilliantly put together sort of Gumshoe style investigation, and with a few sort of really good twists along the way.
Yeah, I mean, the ones I'd probably give a shout out to was the Fear Street trilogy on Netflix as well.
Which one?
Fear Street.
Oh, Fear Street! Oh my God, that was awesome. Yeah,
that was really good, especially the first one. But again, the way it just jumped around from style to style to style, and really enjoyed that. Thought it was cracking.
Yeah. The poor girl with the bread cutter.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was awful.
Couldn't believe they did that. That was ballsy.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of those cases where they went out of their way to sort of really develop the characters, so that, you know, when the deaths happened, you know, you were really hit by it. So.
Yeah.
Even the girl right at the beginning, you know, this sort of Drew Barrymore moment at the beginning, you know, they gave her just enough time that you sort of go, oh, yeah. But it was a really well done trilogy. And then the third part, the way that sort of split its timeline, because I was really shocked. How it all came together. I was like, holy crap! I didn't realize it was going to, but it all fits. Yeah, it all works.
Yeah.
No, brilliant. Really good shout with that one. Cool. I think we've had a really good year. We've managed to keep the bad ones to the bare minimum. We've made friends in the industry, which is really cool. And 2022 is already shaping up to be an interesting year. We always do get a lot of good stuff come through in January, because the I think sort of releases do tend to sort of dry up, don't they, Rich? Sort of around about sort of November, December time.
Certainly the physical releases do. Yeah.
I mean, we've got a lot of stuff sort of stacked for the new year. We've got a few bits and pieces coming out. But yeah, it's been a great year. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us, all these episodes. How many released this year? About 40 episodes?
I think 66 episodes, I think, in total.
In total, including the short shots.
I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I think it's something.
It's a lot.
Like
we've done loads. This many. Yeah. And yeah, we're keen and eager to crack on in the new year. So, as usual, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.